Welcome to the road to 50 million. Today I have a fun picture. This picture in the background I found when I was looking for a picture of an alchemist. I had several that had this particular fellow in it. And, if you can see, there's, gold and stacks of things, and you can't see the whole picture, but it's quite elaborate. And it reminded me of the book, The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho's, and of the description of what an alchemist is and the work that it took. So in the book, The Alchemist, there was a young boy, and if you haven't read it, you should. And if you read it, then you'll follow this. A young boy who was not young, a shepherd. He was probably, I don't know, 20 or something. Who knows? Didn't say. But he'd gone through several iterations of what he wanted to be, wanted to see the world, and then he became a shepherd. And he was feeling the pull of this thing, his true purpose, right? And I just, I love that book. I've read it many times. I don't know how many. And it just reminds me of the work that it takes. So I think Santiago was the main character's name, but he went through several iterations of ups and downs. So he was a shepherd and gave that up and used all his money to buy a ticket from Spain over to Africa. And then he got robbed, and then he worked in a crystal shop. And each of the things that he did brought him closer to what he was to do. And he had this vision of finding a treasure, a great treasure, his one true purpose, his one true mix, soul purpose. I've forgotten exactly what they call it in the book, but it's, your one true purpose. And on the way, he meets an alchemist, and he meets first an interesting person in caravan that they get to go across the Sahara Desert for an indeterminate period of time. And there's wars and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's a great read. Anyway, he meets this person who's studying this to death. Like this person Brian brings all of his books, and he's in the same caravan, and he wants to go meet the alchemist also. And he imagines to reach this by studying and studying and studying in the laboratory, and has done all this work. And not to downplay studying in that way, but he missed the language of the world, which is the internal dialogue that comes from the muse, comes from the divine, comes from the gifts that we have. And at the end, the Santiago meets the alchemist, and they go do stuff, and Santiago learns to turn himself into wind. Now, alchemy is about transformation, transmutation. It's changing something of less value. Lead into gold is the traditional thing, but a base metal that isn't worth very much into something extremely valuable. So the metaphor of alchemy is applicable to everything. And I use it in part of my PTAC, personal truth and commitment. I have a line that says, I am become alchemy. And I don't use the word alchemist because of the construction of the word I am become, but whatever. I am become alchemy, lover of people, healer of souls, magnifier of prosperity. That's a declaration that I make, and it's how I start every day, to find people to love and souls to heal and prosperity to multiply. Now, I don't possess the power of the divine, although it comes through me and you, each of us. All of that conversation is a setup for the important thing right here, which is doing the work. Yesterday or day before yesterday, I got a book in the mail, and that happens a lot. And it's a Steven Pressfield book, and it's called Do the Work. And it's written in an interesting way, like all Pressfield books are, especially the 5 that he's got, the War of Art and Artist Journey and Do the Work. And another one that's recently is Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants to Be. And those are the 2 that I just got because the other 3 I had. And it's clear, it's powerful, and it's an invitation. So here's my commitment. This whole journey, this 50 million, is Kellan making a declaration that I'm going to help 50 million people this year from October 14th to October 14th to discover their gifts. and to serve with them, because it is in that discovery, when we discover our gifts and we choose to use them to love and serve, and we choose to develop them as best we can. One of my favorite phrases is love yourself enough to get good at what you do, because there is something you uniquely can do. There is. And we've all heard that, and people talk for it and against it. And some people say, well, love what you do instead of do what you love. And there's phrases. Those are all fine. But the point that Pressfield makes, the reason I titled today's Do the Work, is that none of that happens or matters until we do the work. And famous in all of the series of Pressfields is the resistance, that characteristic which is impersonal, couldn't care less about you individually, but whose sole purpose is to kill you spiritually and creatively, to help you die with your music inside, to help you create you, push you, invite you. And he talks about the characteristics of the resistance: ruthless, protean, never stops, will make a deal with you and then immediately double cross. I mean, every negative thing you can ever imagine or think about that is embodied in the resistance. And there's a talk that I give called about spiritual gravity, and I liken that. I didn't call it the resistance. I called it energetic or spiritual gravity, but it's the same thing. And it is in direct proportion to the work that we're trying to do. So we understand that in the physical world. If I can pick up 20 pounds and do some exercise, and my goal is to pick up 21 pounds and do some exercise, it's not going to be very long before I can do that if I try at all. On the other hand, if I want to go from 20 to 100, then it's going to take some work. And there's going to be a lot more physical gravity and resistance and struggle and stories and everything that I have to overcome. Now, I've done that, and so have you, with different things. But here we are at a particular time in the world. It's today. It's the day before Thanksgiving in the U.S. I'm in Canada, so Thanksgiving was in the second Monday in October. And tomorrow is a day to think about gratitude, and that is a big piece. But here's what I invite you to do as you think about this. I invite you to do three things. One, identify things you want to be doing. Pressfield again suggests just start doing things, and the things that call you. In fact, he suggests the thing that's hardest for you, the thing that brings the most resistance, is probably your life's work. And he suggests, and this has been my experience, that the resistance is inversely proportional to the importance of the work that you have in mind, the thing you want to be, how you want to show up in the world. So the hardest thing in the world for you is the thing to do. That's the place to start. And when we look for our gifts and talents, often we go find the easiest thing. Well, that's a good way to start if you're trying to just overcome the idea that you can't do anything. But there's also merit in just identifying and leaning into the truth of who you think you are and ending the excuses, ending the reasons not to. And that's one of the reasons I've found having a coach is so powerful for me, is the truth can be spoken. Like when I say all my excuses and reasons and things out loud, they don't sound very good. They don't convince me at all, right? And so when I hear them, I think, you know what, this is just resistance. This is spiritual gravity. This is the natural consequence of trying to elevate my state, just like elevate the weights. So spiritual gravity or energetic gravity is just like physical gravity. It's predictable, it's ruthless, and it is in direct proportion to the size of growth you're trying to make. Trying to make big growth, then the gravity's big. If you're trying to make small growth, then the gravity's small. You may need to start with small things, but start. So I had an interesting exchange. Like you, I get a lot of friend requests on Facebook and Messenger and stuff like that. And I'm sure you do also. And lots of them There's three kinds. There's phony ones that are fake accounts, and I actually don't know what they're trying to do, hack my account or get access to my friends or whatever. And so I look at people's profiles and I don't ever accept those. Delete all those. The second batch, and they're getting more sneaky, but you can usually tell. Anyway, the second batch are people that are trying to sell me something. And I'm sure you get a ton of those too. And usually what those look like is offers to find me a bunch of clients or set up a bunch of appointments or write an app for me or do some coding. Do I need this or that? And, that's fine. People reaching out, trying to do cold calls and make stuff happen. I don't involve those. Mostly I don't accept those friend requests most of the time. Once in a while I do. And when I do, I have looked at what they offer. And maybe I need it, maybe I don't, but it looks sincere and powerful enough that I just want to have a conversation. So I ask them what their business is and how it's going and so forth. And so I did this with this one yesterday, and the answer came back, very long script. It may have been canned, but describing all of the activities they did. And I wrote back and talked about my goal, my 50 million, to help people discover and serve with their gifts and everything that I've said here on lots of these Road to 50 Million videos. And she came back with an interesting answer. She said, that's fantastic. The very few people that are not just married to money and married to cash and making more money and everything else. And I didn't say I didn't have a business, but I did say that my focus is on helping these 50 million people. But anyway, she said, most people aren't ready to do the work. They're not really ready to make the effort. And that's certainly my experience. And it was my experience as a person, too, for a long time. And there's still resistance every day. Resistance isn't something you wipe out and it never comes back, or at least it's not for me. And in the books, Pressfield, he suggests that it's every day. You got to get up every day, strap your armor on, and go do battle. Produce your body of work, sit in the chair, go do the things that are connected with whatever it is you've said to do. So this video that I do every day is one little piece of me doing that. My road to 50 million is going to take all year. I hope to blow past that number. And I don't really know how it's all going to happen. That was another question she asked. How are you going to do that? And then she asked, do you have a lot left? And I don't think she realized that my year started in October. So I explained that and said, yeah, I have a boatload left. And I really don't know how I'm going to reach that. So in every one of these videos, I reach out to you, whoever you are watching this, and ask if you'd like to help reach 50 million people. And what does it mean to reach them? I don't mean to sell something, although that could be involved if it's appropriate. What I really mean is to help 50 million people wake up, find or at least get on the search for their divine gifts, realize who they really are, and then begin with a personal commitment, an internal fire to do the work. Because that's the way we're going to change the world. If you are struggling with the world and its attitude and inflation and polarization and negativity, the best way I know to do it is to turn the lead around you into gold. And we can't turn anyone else's life. We can't change them without permission. So we start with us. And like Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. So that's where I'm starting. I'm inviting anyone that watches these that wants to help and participate to reach out to me and tell me how we can work. Because my goal is to help 50 million people to discover their divine gifts, to commit to serve with them and to start on that path. And what I notice, and I say this every video, what I notice is in doing that, I'm happier than I've ever been before. My business grows. I get to talk to people and connect. And in that process, connect deeply. And in that process, sometimes I find people that want a coach, that want the help that I offer to do that work in their world. It's the same reason I have a coach, more than one, actually, for different things. And I do it on purpose, and I do it continually because it's the only way I know to keep my sights up, to um, eliminate resistance a day at a time, to reconnect every day with the divine being that I am and that you are. So, those are the things that happened today. I invite you to help. And more than anything, I invite you to be one of those people who is living in love and serving everyone around you as much as you can with the gifts you've been given. Because that's how we're the happiest and that's how we make the biggest difference in the world. That's what I have experienced. And it starts with loving yourself, and it starts doing by doing everything in and with love. See you tomorrow.